This country went to close to 20% renewables in no time. And the state of Colorado is more than a quarter. And it had days when it was 60% renewables already, right? So you really can begin to see the end of the tunnel.
You can say, imagine if we just got a reasonably decent policy and regulatory structure in place that incentivized this at scale.
Right.
You know what I mean? What we would do, we'd take off.
Yeah, it would. And if you replaced 3% a year, then you're 30 years away from fixing the problem. And those are actually the right, and 3% a year, come on.
Talk to me about this idea that we've been batting back and forth, a clean energy standard. Why could that be actually the trigger mechanism? An idea, by the way, that Republicans initiated.
Right. So the best kinds of policies, in my opinion, are technology neutral and performance based and have a long-term horizon and get tougher all the time.
And have a market element to
And have a market element,
Which brings in the Republicans,
You don't want to pick winners and losers.
That's right.
And you don't want to pretend you know the answer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the same thing, I guess. So if you start with a clean energy standard and you set it on CO2 per kilowatt hour, the amount of carbon per unit of electricity, then you've opened it up for nuclear, for solar, for wind, for geothermal, for biomass, and so forth.
And you said to the market, everybody pitch in, God bless you, if you can reach this standard, and by the way, it's going to go up a little bit every year.
Then and so one of the things which I've never understood, there seem to be Democratic electrons and Republican electrons. I don't fathom why. Right? The windmills produce Democratic electrons, and nuclear power, coal produces Republican electrons. They're just electrons.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and carbon is bad, and so let's just step by step, performance-based, get rid of it.
I love your line. The best carbon sequestration is not to dig up coal. It's already been sequestered.
I know, it's all there.
It's already there. I love that line.
The only problem with coal in the ground is it's got a few hydrogens attached.
Yeah.
And we're happy when they get liberated and give us some energy.
Yeah.
Those devilish hydrogens, we just leave it alone.
Otherwise, and I think there's such an important precedent for a clean energy standard, and that is 1975, we implemented new auto mileage standards. We scaled them in over a 10-year period to 1985, and then we stopped.
Right.
And what happened?
So technology didn't stop.
That's right.
We've kept
and
our
by the way,
economy
and Japan didn't go away.
Right. So our cars almost doubled. They increased by 60% in weight. They doubled in power, and they stayed constant fuel economy. Right. So we took the technological improvement, instead of applying it to saving our money, saving our national security, and saving our environment, we put it into really basically lazily designed cars.
Yes.
If you can just burn a lot of fuel, you can make the car as heavy and as dumb as I want to be, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we did. And like you said, Japan didn't stop, Germany didn't stop,
and the technology didn't stop, and they just applied it differently, and in the end, they destroyed. That's what destroyed Detroit.
Yeah. So a good legislative lesson from that is, A, don't underestimate technology, and B, don't artificially constrain.
Yeah,
right?
That's a great point. That's really good. That's a really great point. How do you feel? President Obama just gave a really important speech. Sorry. Finally, in his 5th year, President Obama gave the climate speech that you and I have been hoping he would give for all these years and months. What do you think was most important about that speech?
The moral call. This was a call to action for the American public, because we need to do this for our country's sake and for the next generation's sake. And so the particulars were very good, especially considering that Congress isn't very functional right now. But instead of being a pragmatist manager, let's do a little more of this and a little more of that, he came out and said, this is a fight of our lives, and we're going to take it up seriously.
Yeah. What will be for you success? He's got 3+ years to go. What do you think he can accomplish in these next 3 years?
So I would not underestimate what he can do at the executive branch. Yeah. So first of all, you've got to give the guy credit for doubling the fuel efficiency of cars.
Huge.
Yeah. It's a big deal. Yeah. National security deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
What he's doing and planning to do with power plants will have a similar, even bigger consequence. That's a really big deal. And his agreement with President Xi Jinping on HFCs is a really, really big deal, right? So all those are moving us in the right direction. The market's helping too. But I didn't answer your question. Yeah. That was the run-up.
Right. Okay.
The most important thing you can do is let America join the battle. right?
Leverage our both enthusiasm and our
Yeah.
technology.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, if this is a technocratic problem, and then the moneyed interests will win.
Yes.
If it's a moral issue, America will win.
Right. You know, Hal, one of the things I've learned from our conversations over the last couple of years is how much the march of technology, proceeds. And that I think your optimism, or you're splitting it between your fears and your hopes, that your hopes are legitimate when you see the leaps in technology, that we've made, without that much regulatory incentive. And it just, what I always smile to myself is that, those of us who care about these issues, we did forget one thing, that we thought all the technology was with renewables, basically, but it was also with hydrofracturing,
Right,
that the
right.
oil industry, they
They didn't stop.
they didn't stop either.
Yep.
But in a way, there's been a bit of a convergence of the two. Would you say, or is that not right?
Well, it's a fascinating question.
Yeah.
I mean, it's another kind of horse race,
Right.
right? What they have done, in effect, is put an infinity sign next to fossil fuels. We will not run out of fossil fuels.
Yeah.
We will run out of atmosphere, right? And the consequence of that is the market can't solve the problem by itself. Policy has to solve it.
Right.
Because the atmosphere is a common good. And if it's free to destroy, and you make money destroying it, it will be destroyed.
And that's why whatever clean standard, and that's why if we put in place a clean energy standard, it's critical that it be one that is steadily rising, so it truly is a bridge to a clean energy future.
Yep.
And so let me start over. So that's why it's okay to exploit this natural gas if we exploit it properly, so there is
Right.
no fugitive methane and other leakage. But only if you combine it with a clean energy standard, with a rising clean energy component, so any natural gas is a bridge to a clean energy future, not a ditch.
Right. And so gas is displacing coal rather than renewables or efficiency. Yeah. I'd love to hear more about the Middle East.
I want to just, before I say, right when you're going to get I've emailed you a new version.
Okay.
Andy went through it.
Okay.
Would you make sure you write that point into your, those 2 points because I didn't have it in, that we got to make sure this clean energy standard is a bridge.
Right.
It's got to be a bridge.
Yep.
And that it doesn't displace. That's
Yeah.
really cool. That's
Okay.
really important.
Yeah,
So
happy
you'll see it. But I want to. He's put his stuff in now.
Okay.
And so we sent you a clean version.
I'll do it right.
And so
right,
whenever
right,
you
right.
Go ahead.
So I've heard that Gulf states are going to make some enormous commitments to solar, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Because they'll drive the price down further. And that the Gulf states have their own energy crisis. Iran has an energy crisis right now, and that's not a Gulf state, but Middle Eastern states. And then there's some like Jordan that's energy poor from the get-go. How much is this? What's going on?
You've got such a differentiated playing field out there. So you have Gulf states with tiny populations that have been using a lot of their energy, their oil and gas, to basically air condition cities in the desert. And they've realized that's really actually kind of stupid. And so they've realized they have a lot of sun. They have the money to make those investments, and they're doing it. That's one part of the story, and it'll probably have a fairly happy ending, because I think they have the money and the brain power to do it. I mean, or the smarts to do it properly.
Technical wherewithal.
Exactly. But the big story in the Middle East is what's happened in the big population countries, where you've had several generations of leaders now who the word environmentalism has never crossed their lips. And what we're seeing now is 50 years of environmental problems, ignoring population, ignoring water exploitation, overexploitation, ignoring all the factors that go into saltwater intrusion, all coming to a head right when the Arab Spring appears, and you have the frailest governments now going to have to deal with the biggest environmental challenges. And that combination is going to be deadly. And that's why my motto is, you cannot think about the Middle East today unless you are environmentalists. You can't understand the problems. And what I also say to my friends in the Middle East, something that Dana Meadows, the great environmentalist from Dartmouth, used to say, when people used to ask her about climate change, is it too late? She'd say, no, it's not too late, but we have exactly enough time starting now. And my message to the Arabs is you have exactly enough time starting now. You do not have 10 years to fight about whether Shiites or Sunnis are the proper heir to the Prophet Muhammad.
Right.
You don't have 10 years to give the Muslim Brotherhood a chance with 100-year-old ideas.
Right.
You've got to be totally on your game right now,
Right.
pulling together with the best ideas that science and technology
Right.
can offer.
Right, right. The house is on fire. It's flickering in the corner. You finish the debate, or you go throw some water on it.
That's right.
Right. You
Exactly.
got it. There's some things that just transcend everything.
And I would say this is going to be one of the biggest problems in the world. People need to pay attention to. We're all talking about China,
Yeah.
but the Middle East, I fear, but the Middle East has the potential to be a vast human development disaster.
No. Could the rich states finance some of this transition?
They could help, but so much of it is solutions that are hiding in plain sight. It's population control,
Right.
which has to be paired with better education,
Right.
which has to be paired with smart investments.
Women's rights.
And women, exactly, all that doesn't take a lot of money.
Yeah.
It says stop putting one arm behind your back that is disempowering half your country, who are
Right.
called women.
Right. Right.
And until they come to these basic things that are free and are
Yeah.
hiding in plain sight, we can't even speak about the bigger
Yeah.
challenges.